So, welcome to week 3. My name is Paul Scott, and our reading this week dealt with Lee Strasberg, and the Actors Studio Theater, and it felt like a logical follow up to last week's readings about Stanislavski and the method, and then, of course, the group theater and Lee Adler and Meisner. So, what I found interesting right off the bat in the first reading was that the Moscow Art Theater, in their 1997, I think it was, Conference for Unity, that it represented unity between Stanislavski's method or techniques and other techniques for acting, and I didn't find much evidence for that. The rest of the reading went on to talk about how much conflict there was within the theater community about the correct way or the proper way to train actors. I found it interesting that Strasberg's method was very similar to Stanislavski's early method on his system, whereas, as we discussed earlier, with Adler, and her meeting with Stanislavski later in his life, that there seemed to be more wiggle room for other kinds of techniques. So there seemed to me, despite the fact that the reading said that there was unity, there seemed to me very much to still be a divide between acting technique that depends on emotional memory and like Stanislavski and Strasberg, and acting that generates emotion through actions, like Adler preached. So that contradiction seemed interesting to me within the reading. The second reading about the Actors Studio I found very interesting because I first became interested in the art and technique of acting by watching Inside the Actors Studio on TV before I ever started acting as an adult, or thinking about teaching acting. But that's the only thing I knew about the Actors Studio. So the reading taught me that, in addition to having this show, that the Actors Studio began as a studio for accomplished actors. There were no beginners allowed, and there was no cost. So it was a free space for experienced actors to come and continue to hone their craft, and develop their skills as actors. What also struck me was that the freedom that the actors got to choose whatever material they wanted and whatever scene partners they wanted, and they could perform whether they had rehearsed or not, or whether they had a director or not. And that seemed very much at odds to me with Stanislavski and Strasberg's strict adherence to rules and to the system and the method. So the idea that there's this new school that allows actors to develop their skills in a way that is not so defined and constrictive was interesting to me. Again, the names associated with the new school or the Actors Studio are incredible: Marilyn Monroe, Harvey Keitel, Elia Kazan, Christopher Walken. As somebody who is familiar with the work of these folks, as opposed to some of the readings we've had about theaters and actors in the past, it's very impressive to think that so many of them trained in the same place. In 1994, the Actors Studio combined with the New School, and James Lipton started that show, Inside the Actors Studio, which was so influential for me. And it is interesting to me that despite the freedom that they give their students in choosing essentially their curriculum and how they train, with all the freedom I described earlier, that the main curriculum consisted of Stanislavski's texts about acting. So again, another contradiction to me. We're going to establish a school where actors can decide what they want to work on and how they want to work on it, but we're going to use Stanislavski as our foundation. And finally, what interested me was that they partnered eventually with the Alvin Ailey Dance Center. Movement is such an important part of acting, obviously, and it's the part that I probably struggle with most in the performances that I've done. And I just commented in my post that I would have appreciated having that kind of training as well to make me feel more confident about my physicality during performances. So that's week 3. We'll see you again in week 4.